So thanks for giving us some time. We go ahead. We're coming off the heels of this is what I'm talking about. Except we're going to have to cut and paste in other people when we edit, so it makes it look like we have a crowd.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're taping for HPTV. Gary Leslie is the guy in charge of HPTV. And all its programming. I'm not going to introduce myself. I think everybody knows me. Everybody knows Darcy. Maybe you want to make sure that introduce yourself. Know Darcy.
If you don't, I am Darcy Samrusty. I'm the president of the board this year. I'm a mom in the district. I have 2 kids who are being pretty good over there.
And Mark is the newest, one of the newest members of the board.
And I'm Mark Krieger, and I'm chair of the finance committee. And this is my 4th term on the board. I was on the board in the 80s and 90s. I was just appointed.
And his wife was a professor at Bloomfield. What's your specialty?
Early childhood education.
There you go. And it just happens to be her birthday today.
Our director. I took her out to dinner, and then I said, "You come to this guy. We like doing this." Believe it or not.
We think this is fun.
I like this.
So I'll be frank with you in telling you that the slides I'm going to show are the same slides I've showed in pieces at the last few board meetings. So I'm going to go over them, but I'll work kind of swiftly, and that way we can open up for more questions and answer in a period of time. And I have to tell you that Darcy, Mark, and Rob Magaziner might make it as well. He's on the Finance and Facilities Committee. Have all been working really closely. Together. So any of the questions you have that I can't answer, I bet one of these guys can answer. And if I can't answer very specific business-related questions, we'll make sure we document the questions. And then you know what I didn't do? I didn't really sign a sheet, but I'll have to. What I'll probably do is set up something on the website. Frequently asked questions page on the website. I'm going to show you where to go. And then you can just go there, the questions will be answered by early answer. So this is the 3rd public presentation we've made in the last couple of days. On the screen is a timeline of events that started back in December. Linda Heffley, the BA, and I, business administrator, and I met with every school leader a couple of hours and required him or her to explain a rationale for each line. We weren't looking to cut. We were looking for explanations as to why certain expenditures increased or certain decreased. Mr. Lassiter, I see you're spending half on what you've spent in the past on your assessment needs. Changing are the way we approach assessment. So obviously from these conversations came a lot of talk about programming too. Then Linda and I met with the Finance and Facilities Committee, these 2 folks, Rob Magaziner, 4 times in the evenings, and brought the school leaders, the same folks, principals and supervisors who met with me and Linda, in front of the committee. And again, they went through every line. And did 2 things. One, rationalize, explain why there were expenditures and changes in the lines, and also educated the Finance and Facilities Committee about what it was that they were spending on. Then we started talking with the community over the last few days. Met with seniors yesterday morning. Last night we spent about 2.5 hours at Congregation of Emmett. Harry Glazer, who sits on the board of 2 congregations, both Orthodox, brought together the conservative shuls and Orthodox shuls, and provided this opportunity at Emmett for a forum. And it worked very well. We had a chance to, we had a dialogue, we had a chance to do our Dog and Pony show, and then have a constructive discussion about some creative solutions to some of our expenditure problems, revenue problems. And of course, I'm here tonight. I will as well as the Finance and Facilities Committee address additional questions the public may have about the budget on Monday night. I don't intend on making additional presentations this Monday night. However, May 2nd is when Linda and I will present the final budget, 3 weeks, to the board for approval. So between now and May 2nd, the Finance and Facilities Committee, Linda and I will be meeting at least once, perhaps twice, to continue to strategize based on the input we received from you last night and so on and so forth. So I've been talking about the budget in as simple terms as possible while providing as many details as I can. I'm a right-brainer, you know, I'm very insecure when it comes to the numbers, I suppose. And so when I think budget, in my head, I just try to keep it simple. I see the budget as being really two things. Expenditures, how much we spend, and revenue, how much income we can generate to pay for what we spend. I wanted to emphasize first some changes in our expenditures that are of note going into next year. We have incurred inordinately high costs for placing students in special needs out of the district. Those are tuition costs, transportation costs, and in a little while I'll break down the numbers for you. We are also, as we have done every year, having to... I have to tell you, just health benefit costs, who is now the superintendent of my old district in Kenilworth. We chit-chat, and I was picking his brain about some things. They are actually having to deal with 30% increases in their health benefits. We're not there. We're about 10 to 15%. It hasn't been finalized yet. So, it's interesting how, depending on your broker and I guess how aggressive your VA can be with the broker, you can work with that number. So there is some control over how we respond to rising health benefit costs, but nevertheless they increase every year. And finally, we are seeing some increasing enrollment in our special needs program and in our lower grades, and we anticipate that will increase with new development that we're all familiar with around the Piscataway Highland Park Board. So let me break down the expenditures for you. Those expenditures that we have a great deal of control over, we have been able to arrest, and in some cases, like you can see in the area of district operations, significantly impact in our favor. School supplies and extracurricular activities, those are really all the things that go in the building budgets. So the principals were speaking before me and Linda and then the Finance and Facilities Committee. They were going line by line over all the supplies and all the resources teachers need. We were able to reduce some of those costs. What I didn't mention last night, I forgot to mention, but I can share here, is one of the reasons for the decrease in costs is our being creative and reaching out to wholesale commodities. I think we're talking about them as being commodity groups that will work with all the vendors we generally work with, bring them into a consortium with other school districts that this big company works with, and thus reduce the prices for all districts who subscribe to this big commodities group. So we are seeing some reduction in our supplies costs thanks to that. District operations, that's more Linda. Hopefully she has been finding ways to utilize some of our own engineers more creatively and so on and so forth. And finally, by increasing some of our supervisory staff and the recommendation to hire behaviorists, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, we've been able to cut down some of our costs in the area specifically of professional development. And that'll make more sense when I get to a couple of slides. Now, the expenditures we can't really affect so much, except possibly the benefits to some extent. And you might be able to argue special education, get to that in a second. We are seeing great rises in dollars since this past fiscal year. Salaries are going up, that's per the collective bargaining unit. The salaries of the new positions we are proposing cost, as you can see, close to $46,000. Our benefits are, as I explained, and our special education costs right there speak to what I said earlier. In 1 year alone, we incurred almost a $600,000 increase in special ed costs. So now I want to break down some of the highlighted items in that expenditures chart I showed you. I don't want to go over every piece of text. I don't like reading off slides. I just want to briefly review our thinking behind proposing these new positions. We are in great need of another high school guidance counselor and also somebody who can help maybe 1 or 2 days a week at another school. A few years ago, I've came to understand that we cut our guidance staff, and it's hurt us. We have over 600 students in the high school, and we're being served by 1.5, maybe 2, 1/3 guidance counselor. Even though we had 2 full-time guidance counselors, one of them was also our building test coordinator. And a lot of her time, that's Kristen Allen, a lot of her time is having to spend on part organization. I did your biology test. She helps out in the middle school, and she asks me science a little bit. I can go on. Any kind, as SAT, ACT, active placer, the access test for ELL students, she has a lot to do. So that's sucking up her time, taking it away from our kids. My vision, and I want to express this to the effective faculty, guidance counselors in the office, is to have somebody come on board and be our post-secondary preparation specialist. Somebody whose almost sole role would be to work with kids, either college-bound or not, work-bound, 2-year college, whatever it is. Be prepared to have an independent, satisfying career of some sort, at least at the very least be a contributory member of our local community. I've come to find out that that's not happening. We have kids who they're not college bound, for instance, hit the streets. We have a couple we know just wander the streets. They kind of, and sometimes they fall into bad groups, and one thing leads to the next. So I really feel like we need somebody who's going to help college preparation to those kids who are college bound, as well as the other kids who college just doesn't suit them. We also need to, in my estimation, make our part-time urban guidance counselor full-time. We have a number of kids down there who are being underserved because of the ratio. We have a 0.5 guidance counselor serving over 200 students, who some of you who may have children or you know are interacting with peers who are starting to exhibit some increasing behavior problems. I'll just put it right out there. We're seeing a real uptick in our behavior challenge kids. For whatever reason, maybe it's our demographics are changing. We're up to 38% free and reduced lunch right now, and with low-income circumstances come a lot of challenges that need to be addressed by support staff. Teachers can't do it on their own. And I mentioned the behaviorist earlier. Right now, we outsource behavior modification training for staff and interactions with kids to consultants to the tune of close to $120,000. We want to save money by bringing the behaviorist in and cutting out those consultants. And we also want this behaviorist to start laying the groundwork to create. This is where I come back to how I said the special education expenditures can control to some extent. We want this behaviorist to start laying the groundwork to creating a program for behaviorally challenged kids that will bring back numbers of our students who are sent out of district right now at a cost of approximately $50,000 to $60,000 tuition, another $10,000 in transportation. By hopefully, our vision would be by year 2017, 2018. So that's our rationale on behaviors. We do see some increased enrollment. We have IEP-driven needs that call for additional special educators. And our first grade class is very big right now. And so we need to accommodate the requirement.
How big is big that you're saying that
It's big as in when they spill into Bartle, we could see class sizes of like 28 to 30.
It's like over 140.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers, but I can include that on our frequently asked questions page. In a few minutes, I'll get Pat on it. So yeah, I'll let you know. And finally, our leadership team is decimated over the last 2 years. 3 years ago, we hired assistant superintendents. supplementary staff.
Team manager.
Thank you. It's just a,
We've been through this a few times.
it's a setup here. And we were spending a little over $920,000 on central office administrators. Some of whom didn't interact with kids directly, there were issues. I mean, they were doing on data, whatever. Then 2 years ago, with all the changes and transitions in our district, there was a purge, and our costs went down something like $540,000, $520,000 last year. But with that, we now don't have any curriculum support people, data analysts, or folks who were doing that work. And we are also, of course, we don't have any superintendents. So what we're proposing is we restore the levels of funding to where we were back, as far back as 2010, 2011, at about $720,000 in cost for central office administrators. And we're also looking to restructure the central office administration team so they're in the classroom 60 to 70% of their day. Sharice Richardson, Judy Petrobono, Ann Gowan, they're not here, but they, along with teachers, myself, all the principals, spent many hours vetting candidates for the supervisor of humanities position. And when we did that, we were looking for people who fit the mold, fit the vision, coaches, staff developers, curriculum developers, people who also obviously had the same vision we all do as a community. So that's what we also anticipate looking for when we look to hire a supervisor of science, technology, engineering, and economics. If you look at the Star Ledger, you happen to be an educator, and you know that there's an insert Star Ledger for jobs. This Sunday, we are going to be posting an advertisement for positions, including STEM, but you'll note that it will say anticipated, because of course it's pending the budget. Finally, we are, sorry.
No, I thought you were about to change it.
I will in a second, but before I do that, I'll let you ask a question. Sure. So we are also looking to hire a very part-time, more like a 1/3 to 1/2 supervisor of education services, especially to support Susie Boudin, our new director of ed services. This is somebody who would evaluate staff, facilitate workshops, and also work with the behaviorist to create that program that we hope will bring some of our students back to district back. Here's another little look at the special ed expenditures I was referring to. Specifically, the money you're spending out of district for out of district tuition costs. As you digest what you're looking at, there's a disclaimer here to dispel any confusion. What you should know is this fiscal year 2016, that we're finishing up June 30, is the year in which we've incurred these over $600,000 worth of costs. As a result of families moving from out of town into town with kids with special needs, pre-K students who, as best as we can, we anticipate, we want to have a certain number of pre-K disabled children, but we had additional kids who may have come to us who we had to, of course, evaluate and provide services for. And then things that happen naturally during the course of the year. Planets were aligned. We incurred over $600,000 in extra costs this year, which we didn't budget for. So it's now showing up on next year's budget to the tune of about 21.9% increase. All of these documents you can download from the website. So now I want to talk a little bit about the revenue side of the budget and some highlights. We are, as all school leaders are doing across the state, trying to be creative in how to generate revenue. And fortunately, something has worked out nicely for us. We have partnerships with several agencies that place international students in United States high schools. And it appears that Highland Park High School is very popular in China. And that's what I've been told, actually. We have quite a reputation. I think it was Ed Prince, who's operates one of the agencies that works with the kids in China, said it has something to do with the university's affiliation with the Big Ten Research Network, as well as its merger with UMDNJ. And what's happening is now we have a lot of Chinese scholars coming to us for a year on F1 visas. I think it's a different type of visa, I'm sorry, but a work study visa. And then return. And so I think little by little, the reputation is out there that we're a good place to go to school and grow up and spend some time in. So we are looking to place, as a pilot next year, up to 7 students from China who would be taking tuition, whose family would be paying tuition at the rate of a little over $20,000. That number is actually on the website if you download our user-friendly budget. So you do the math, and we are looking to generate $140,000 next year alone. It's our hope that if the pilot works out well, the students come to us and we set up an application process. The application identified students who were relatively proficient in English, so they got along well, they were able to integrate for the year well. If it all works out, we'd be looking to a little more than double the number of students, up to 15 students we can take the following year at the rate of $20,000 in tuition. So you're looking close to $300,000 in general revenue.
Is that spread over you're saying that's high school students? So it would be, like, they would be spread out over the 4?
The 4 grades, yes. Yeah, it seems that there's more of an interest for students, at least from China, from what I've been told, to come for senior year, so they can graduate with the United States high school diploma. Gives them more entree to competitive colleges and universities.
And what's the cost associated with each student? So they pay $20,000, but what are our costs?
No, there are no overhead costs. Except,
Additional costs?
well, the only additional cost that we could potentially incur would be if we underestimated on the application the proficiency in language arts, and we have to provide them English language learning services, ELL services, used to be ESL. Now, if that happens, we can accommodate 7 students without having to hire additional ELL teachers this year. But if we were to take 15 students next year alone, and we really misjudged, we could have to potentially hire a part-time ESL teacher, ELL teacher, and then there would be that cost incurred. Otherwise, there's no cost incurred to the district. I mean, you can argue that we have to provide them a textbook, additional textbook, but the numbers we're dealing with next year are so minimal that, we likely have enough materials, and if we had to purchase an additional textbook or 2, the cost would be very, very high. I mean, the textbook maybe a $50, $60 cost.
So that $140 is almost directly to the bottom line?
Sure.
It goes almost directly to the revenue.
Correct. And our business administrator and I have developed, with input from our board attorney, an acknowledgement form that the families have to sign, sort of contract that indicates that there will be no cost, but protects us.
You mentioned that money is tuition. It sounds to me as if it's a private organization. I mean, is that how it's classified? Is it tuition?
So the organization apparently charges a fee for its service, and that's how it generates its revenue. And then Highland. And then the tuition comes straight to the district separately.
Okay. Oh, and it's paid through to the organization. It's administered by them.
Rob Magaziner is the other member of the Finance Facilities Committee who I mentioned. We're also going to generate some revenue, not nearly as much as the tuition paying students, probably between $10,000 and $15,000, by hosting the Chabad House summer camp from Rutgers. Chabad House in Rutgers is the College Ave. We're working with Rabbi Yosef Kralabach and his son, Eddie Kralabach. They needed a place to go, and we offered our facility, which had been used over the summer. Irving's used, for guess why. Middle and high school used for summer work, but Bar wasn't used. So we're going to generate some revenue there, and frankly, I think it's been a good thing for us. I think it's been a nice way to welcome members of the community who don't know a lot about our schools. And so that's one area which we can generate revenue. Finally, aid that the state provides all school districts in July after the school year to offset unanticipated or extraordinary expenditures. The reason why we're considering this change in revenue, a highlight aspect of our revenue stream, is because we never know what we're going to get from the state. Last year we got about $300,000. But it's a crapshoot. We don't know what it's going to be. And so we are being very conservative. We are budgeting we're anticipating $100,000 in revenue, but if our revenue from an extraordinary is close to last year, well then, we will luck out. But we have to be safe, not rather than sorry. And then here's a breakdown of the revenue areas in particular. I have a slide that shows the tax impact on the financial impact on the taxpayer. So if you have questions about tax levy and whatnot, there'll be a slide that speaks to that. We're underestimating tuition revenue because we're saying we're going to accept 5 to 7 students. If we accept 7 students, it'll generate $41,000 in revenue. But we're still in the process of these agencies, so being conservative. Any questions? Since I'm not talking much about this. So I thought I would, since I'm talking about revenues and expenditure, costs we can control and costs we can't. We're doing what we can to manage the costs, the expenditures we can control. But there are things that we can't really control, or we have very little control over. So a lot of those costs that we don't have control over are mandates from the state. And what's happening is, if it hasn't been already pointed out to the community, is while our costs have been going up, property taxes, of course, in blue, the second line, have been going up. The aid we get from the state has remained flat for now 5 fiscal years. So, I have to say that, those of you who are public educators know where I'm coming from when I express my frustration that every year districts are having to deal with mandates, and every year they're unfunded. Or if they are funded, as is the case with the charters, if I may say, we're mandated to pay tuition for charters. It's really not funded. Did you get a little money this year? How much?
$18,000.
And that's the first time we ever got it?
Well, this is a totally new thing. This is because the governor is actually overfunding funds, flat funding districts, he's overfunding charters. And then now, instead of asking districts to pay for that overfunding, the state is funding it. So we're just a pass-through. We're getting $18,000, but we're literally just a pass-through for that money.
Part has cost us money. I'm not talking about computers. I'm talking about the paraprofessionals who have to hire for additional hours to help manage more of the small group settings now that we have to work with, than we did with that ESPA and substitutes to help us manage our schedule to cover teachers with requirements. So we're spending money and the state's not helping out. And I have no problem with that, and I wanted to illustrate that. And I think I speak on behalf of the Finance and Facilities Committee as a city. So what is ultimately going to be the financial impact on the taxpayer? At this preliminary stage, so I'm pointing out at 3 motions, we are proposing a tax levy of 4.6%. And I'll explain the difference between the general fund and the debt service in a second. And if you have questions, you can refer to my colleagues who are very well versed in this area to explain further. The general fund is the budget, really the operating budget that supports the functions of the school district. Debt service is the principal and the interest we pay as a community for any bond or referendum we passed. I think we passed one 9 years ago. I think Linda Sims 9.
There's several of them, and they've been rolled up so that there's one now about more or less 9 years old.
Okay.
It's a roll-up of 2 or 3 that came previously.
Okay. And so, yeah, we are showing you the difference in the tax law.
Just with those bonds, my understanding is that what we have now expires in about 10 years. So
Okay.
and that includes this area as well as previous bonds, but about 10 years more technical than that.
Yeah, that's what Linda said as well.
The average increase on a home is based on the current valuation of a $150,000 home. So that's where we're coming up with $239 per year. And the last slide I want to show you, and then I'll open up obviously for questions that we can all help answer. And I do have supplementary materials which I can show you in case we need to we'll flush some other things out. I'll show you the snapshot. It really is my way of emphasizing the importance of the website. Tonight I'll be uploading this presentation. You have, for the first time in a very long time, if ever, a user-friendly budget. We usually wait to present a user-friendly budget, line by line item budget, until the point at which a final budget has been approved by the board. What we'll do now is a two-step process. We'll show you the user-friendly budget as it stands right now, the preliminary stage, and then we'll present another user-friendly budget after May 2nd, when the board approves whatever one comes. So with that, questions, comments, concerns? Still we look back over.
Well, I'm just going to show them a little closer, so I'm not those miles away. And that is a preliminary budget. We're still working on it. So Scott and Linda, our business administrator, is still working on what other areas can we save some more money, and we found some. We got a new contract for next year, for instance, for some equipment that's coming in much less than anticipated, etc. So the number in less than a month should be hopefully somewhat less than that.
Was it broadband that was?
Broadband, yeah.
Like last year, our contract was, we were paying $6,900 per month for broadband. The new contract this year is $2,900. So then all of a sudden you just found $50,000, like just fell out of the sky. Stuff like that you love.
Yeah. So it should be let's say in the ballpark of what it was as an increase last year. Another thing that we try to do is set the bond payments, because there's some control over when the bond gets paid. Set the bond payments so that what's on your actual tax bill matches what the schools increased. In past years, I looked at my own tax bills when I joined the board. Last year there was that 4% increase, but the tax bill actually only went up 1.2%. And then the year before it was just the opposite of that. It went up 6, but then it went up more than that. And so for planning purposes, it's really terrible for people where you don't actually know, even though you've heard that the school taxes are going up, you don't know what you're actually going to pay. So we can make it look, we can organize that, especially on the bond payment side, so that the amount in the tax bill is equivalent percentage-wise increase to what's actually been allocated as an increase. So if there's a 4% increase in taxes on paper, that's the kind of increase you would see, and a real increase you see in the taxes.
So the way it was explained, last year's increase was that if the school board budget was increasing by 6%, the reason our taxes maybe increased by, let's say, 4% was because there's a numerator and a denominator. And one is your actual budget versus an increase in the tax rates within the town.
That's not
So
there's a tiny, that's worth it.
So you're saying that's not what's creating the percentage difference?
No, there's timing on bond payments, it is everything. So that if someone put it this way to me, if you kick the can down the road on your bond payments and let it kind of build up over the years, you can keep the current year payments low. And there's a double effect because the school taxes and the municipal taxes have a different fiscal year. So the first half of every year is an estimated amount based on the last year's numbers. So there's a double effect of putting off some of the bond payment numbers. And I've done some calculations to show, I worked on this with Linda, who explained it to me, our business manager explained it. When I was on the board previously, we didn't have bond issues, we didn't have debt service. But, and I explained it to some of our board members, it is a double effect. So that how do you get from 4% to 1.2%? You put some of your bond payments off. And that's a good way to make people feel comfortable, kind of, after the fact when you get your tax bill. But it's not reality, and it's also not paying off what you're supposed to. You really want to pay your, no, you don't. Well, someone eventually is going to end up with a 10% bill to pay. And so you just don't want that to happen. And
so you're describing that this year we are basically in line with.
We are going to virtually go in line. We're not going to. We can't go 100% in line because they kicked the can down to our road, previous board, this year. But we're going to, if the final number, let's say the final number was 4.6% increase, which it, I think won't be, but let's say it is. We're going to try to make the actual tax payments over the July through July, or August through August, be very close to that 4.6%. And do that in future years. So what you hear at a board meeting is what you get in your tax bill, or very close to what you get. Might be a tiny bit less, but it's not right. Just not right. And it's not fiscally responsible.
But there is still a factor. In other words, if with all this development that is bringing in 140 whatever pre-K students, I mean, there is an added tax base, so that's offsetting.
It's offsetting a little bit. It's worth 0.2%. It's not worth so much. It's the tax base is going up. It's not going up that much. It was the I don't know how to say it politely, the manipulation of when things were paid off that caused that number, that 3.9 or 4% to go down to an actual bill of 1%. But that's not sustainable. We could do it again, and 2 years from now, you see a bill, and you hear the board raising taxes by 3%, and you come home in August and get a bill from the town for 10%. It's just not right. And people have to plan. There's a lot of pressure. I saw on TV and I heard a lot of pressure about where do you get that number from, and why don't they match, and how is it computed. So we're trying to solve that problem. I think it's good. And Linda's been very helpful in explaining and working on it and making sure it happens correctly.
Any questions? Obviously, if any come up, who to reach out to, us, email, or I would suggest instead of the general board, reach out to me, and I'd like to farm it out to the Finance and Facilities Committee, if you have any questions. My Honeywell tonight's about the budget, so you can either shut it down or bear with it. It's a lengthy one. Warning, it's a lengthy one. Thank you, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, HPTV.